Welcome, Dad,
Hey,
and
Jamie.
welcome, good people. Interested in a little update on fatherhood and just life. So here we are. So you got some notes, huh? You got
An update on fatherhood. Well, the first thing to say is you're 6 months in
yep.
today as we chat, as we record this.
Today for you, for me, very soon. It's like Grace was born at 3 in the morning, and it's for me, it's 11:11. Interesting. And so for about four 4 hours till 6 months. But
Gotcha.
so yeah, by the end of this
Well,
podcast, it'll be 6 months.
cool. Well, it's 6:10 a.m. in Perth, Western Australia.
Nice.
And
Normally,
so on the 5th of October. So I'm
yeah,
officially calling it in
yeah,
the
it's a good
kind of
thing.
eastern southern hemisphere.
Good thing about in the southeastern hemisphere. Good thing about living in two sides of the world. We can just be like, celebrate days, like Christmas is twice as long, birthdays, some downsides, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, crossing the international date line is the only place where time travel is possible.
Yeah, that's a bit of
As we know it. You may know different. But the point I was making was
yeah.
it's kind of 6 months of fatherhood experience for you, and it's just coming up in 9 days' time for 35 years of it for me. So
Right.
round the block a few more times,
Wow.
but no doubt the last 6 months has been more intensive for you than it's been for me. When we last spoke on the pod,
Mm,
Grace was days old, and it was all
yeah.
new and fantastic. And
I was extremely tired, and so I don't know if I was making any sense. I didn't listen back, but
no, you were full of, it was all beer and skittles and lashings of ginger beer. So you were
right.
you were very up, and the adrenaline was flowing, and it was such a magic time. I think it's been magic in the intervening time as well, as best I can
Mm,
tell. We've seen each other face to face, obviously back
yeah.
in May, June. But since then, there's quite a number of weeks and months in
Yeah.
between. So I like this idea. I like the opportunity to actually say we're going to talk about fatherhood and what's happened over the past number of months, I guess.
Yeah.
This is mostly about you, mate.
Yeah. So I've got a lot to confess. So no. Maybe a few things to confess. Um, but
How's it been? How's it been, Jabbo?
it's been great, Dad. Jono, it's yeah, no, I mean, I like your background, by the way. That's very, the viewers will love this. This is excellent.
It's
Um,
not a. It's a Joss Myers painting. It's Bathers,
gee,
by,
huge. The paintings on my walls are somewhat smaller at the moment. I don't know if you can see one. See up here? This is like,
Mhm.
but like, so this is life goals. Get paintings as large as you've got there. But things have been good. I think like yeah, in a nutshell, starting as like a put the main thing first. I think like fatherhood is has a lot of difficulty and challenges in it, and there've been points which have very exhausting and emotionally challenging. Points where like just like yeah, physically and emotionally pretty intense. But it's like a secret. It's like you're actually the secret is you're getting so much more than you're giving. And that's, I think, something which isn't really appreciated so much among my generation, or it's less so, falling birth rates and stuff. But it's like that, like, yeah, it's you make some sacrifices, but it's just so amazing. And like, I can walk home from work, and no matter, what state I'm in, when I see Grace, like, I'm just suddenly, it's amazing. It's just like hilarious and cute and just, really interesting. And it just grounds you so much. And so, think that's been the main thing. They've been like navigating various challenges, but base and including like what direction, certain choices you have to work together, like with your partner or whatever. Yeah, but it's been a really amazing, blissful, blessed experience, I'd say.
And you can, and this, don't take this the wrong way, but you can escape to work, I guess, and have some me time. Johanna, your partner, your fiance, is pretty well 24/7 looking after Grace. I'm going to ask you to speak for her. I shouldn't, but I'm going to ask you to. How's she finding it? Motherhood.
I think she would say she really appreciates like how muscular I am, and she appreciates like the accuracy with which I report her opinions, and no, what would she actually say? I think yeah, like there's times when being like, yeah, she's basically like she's just 1000% committed, which is really beautiful to see, like she's just all about Grace and like whatever she needs, and so sometimes
She's a
that,
fantastic mother. She's a fantastic mother,
yeah, yeah,
and seems to love every moment of it, and has, my observation is, has enormous patience, both
enormous
with Grace
patience.
and
Absolutely. But, definitely not, in one way, sure, I'd say she loves every moment of it. But like a lot of it, in another sense, a lot of the moments, she's not having a good time at all. It's like really difficult and stressful and challenging and like, oh, what happens? And, I think um, in general, women are more geared up for like emotional perception, and men are more geared up for like kind of like analytical, and I think there's like this kind of spectrum of how do you approach things. Is it more through, you know and you can have feminine men and masculine women, and I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but I think one thing that's really been very clear to me through this is like how it's like these specializations, and in it, just like in an economy, if everyone is making the clothes and the food and doing it, purifying the water, no one's going to get very good at anything, and so everyone suffers. But if we specialize, we get higher levels from the same amount of work, higher levels of quality. And in a relationship, I think it's pretty similar, like where the say I'll use the general pattern. So Johanna as the woman, she's more getting like, oh my God, great, is she okay? And she'll get more worried. But then she's also more interested. She's in Grace's, like chatting to her. Like I love it too, but I think Johanna's just so drawn into the energy of like the emotion and connecting on this level, which is like a mother. It's so deeper than I can have, really. But then
it's the most primal relationship that
side,
exists between a mother and a child.
yeah, yeah, it's just like Mother Earth and us, same kind of thing. But
What's the
it's really funny watching Grace will just like watch Johanna, just like Johanna like walks off in the kitchen, Grace head's just like where's she gone, it's just like it's just orbiting, it's just the center of the universe has walked into the kitchen,
It's
but
fantastic.
yeah, but no, it's been really interesting seeing how like teamwork is so important, and that's one thing where I'd say it'd be much harder for say single parents, where it's like when you've got these two, you've got a more masculine and a more feminine energy, so then motherhood and fatherhood together, they really complement each other. And there's times when you need to be more like shut off the emotion and just think logically in a brutal fashion, and just look, yeah, she's crying, but look, she's fine, and we need to sleep. If we get too sleep deprived, it's bad for her. So logically, we need to just let her cry for now. And that's something where I can say as a father. But and then you have, yeah, okay, yeah, good point. That makes sense. And then there's other times when, she will be like, maybe I'm like, oh, she's a bit upset or whatever it is. I can't, and then she'll raise something. I'll go, actually, you got a good point. I hadn't been thinking about that. And there's something where she was connected emotionally, and so drew us to something, and then saved the day or whatever. So, but yeah, it's all very interesting. But,
And will continue to be so,
sure.
which is the wonderful thing about being a parent. What do you reckon, Jamie, has surprised you most about the past 6 months?
Good question. What has surprised me most? Hmm. Um, maybe just maybe I mean, I like the time, probably just like how little time there is. Like I knew it was coming, and I was like prepared for it. But maybe I was a bit cocky. I was like, yeah, no, but I can do it. I'm all in mindfulness. I'll be able to figure this out, and have time for like, writing and this and that. But like it's been like it makes you realize like, well, a lot of work goes into making people, and it makes you really grateful for like makes me very much more grateful for like what you have given me, and the rest of me and my siblings, and to and mum, and just in general, people like in the generations going back, it makes you start to appreciate the ancestors, Dad. And Samhain's coming up, the Day of the Dead.
Well,
um,
you're pretty lucky. You've got a very, very good mum. So
yeah,
you lucked out, mate.
I did like
You did.
that. I know,
Um,
it's nuts.
when you talk about Grace following Johanna around the room, Johanna walks out of the room and Grace pivots and
Yeah, yeah,
where's she gone? Because mum becomes, the center of the universe, the center of gravity in the home. How does a 6-month-old baby spend her day? I can't remember.
you can't remember being 6 months old, or you can't remember how the 6 month
Oh, I
olds.
can remember that. I just can't remember how I spend my day. But I mean, what did she?
Yeah, well,
The immediate supplementary to that is that what I remember with great clarity with you and Mark and Alex was that your growth at a young age was certainly not linear. It wasn't like a slow progression.
yeah,
I mean, there are these milestones events where suddenly from not being able to do something next day you can do something and you go,
yeah,
well, where did that come from?
yeah,
And then later on when one of the biggest things which hasn't hit you yet is when one of your children turns around and uses a word or a phrase,
mm,
an expression that neither you nor Bob's mum has given them. And you go, where on earth
right,
did that come from? So
interesting.
that's a bit down the track for you. But I'm just,
Yeah,
what happens to Grace, during the day? What things are you enjoying in terms of her development, in
yeah,
terms of the new she's trying out as she gets a bit older?
yeah. Good questions. I can give you a few highlights. So yeah, like there's a book called The Wonder Weeks, which Johanna has, and reads kind of ahead a bit and just sees what's coming up. But basically, it's kind of these developmental psychologists or something, and basically the idea is that there are these leaps, like periods of sudden growth, where like the babies kind of gain skills, and there's like they become aware of events, like clusters of things going on, and they understand, oh, okay, this is the door opening, or this is the vacuum cleaner sucking stuff up. And there's just things where it's just pure perception, but they're bundled up into patterns that become recognizable. Or another is like relationships, understanding who people are. And so say following Johanna around, like her head, she does that more than she used to. And it seems more like she's kind of, separation anxiety can appear, like, oh wait, where is she, um but like yeah, it's really interesting. And then in those periods they'll get more clingy, cryy, and cranky, and because there's just their minds just being blown, just being expanded with these new things. But and then it goes back to kind of normal, sleep a bit better, and it's more chill. But say like, what is she doing? She wake up and start kind of babbling or making noise, and feed her and kind of change her nappy or whatever. And but she'll kind of like hang out on the ground, just like looking at stuff. Or we'll I'll play music to her a lot, and sing to her, or we just talk to her about stuff, and who knows how much she's understanding, but like you can communicate a lot. And just being silly and playing, just, you know, making silly noises and looking her in the eye and just letting her know, you know what she's doing. Or and you should go, you know, Johanna takes her in the boogie, in the pram around the place, you know. She goes to groups and stuff and meet, you know, hangs out with other babies, or writes poetry. What else? Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, studies Russian literature, you know, in
yeah,
between 3 and 4 in the afternoon.
yeah,
Uh,
a little lazy.
what about her relationship with you and your relationship with her? You talk about coming home from work in the afternoon. What a great joy that is. What happens between you and Grace that's perhaps different to what happens between her and her mum?
Good question. Well, I don't know. I mean, I do all kinds of weird things, which, you know, Johanna doesn't do, like, you know, chanting Om to her to calm her down or something, you know, or like just
No,
being,
let me stop you there, because I've seen this, and it's like Jedi mind tricks. You know,
it's,
it's really strange stuff where Grace is crying, she's clearly distressed. You grab her and you start doing what?
I
Explain it.
go, oh, which is apparently the sound of the universe. It's like the universal syllable, the sacred syllable, Om, uh, from, like, you know, Eastern mysticism or whatever. But she, I think, you know, she got Om tolerance, because there's a point where it stopped working, you know, and sometimes it'll work, but she would be like, just ignoring me, like, I know what that is, get out of here, Dad, you know. And
Well,
like,
if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. Where you to Grace and she stops being distressed and she stops crying.
yeah,
It's like some crazy
I
stuff.
think I think it's like
I've seen it before.
the vibration, there's some sort of benevolent vibration there, or like, and so I think a lot of, like, what, say, when babies get upset, I think a lot of it is not just, there's not a specific reason for it, and this happens to people also, I think, and we justify it and we make up stories about where it comes from, but actually it was just energy, came from out of nowhere, and you know, then it creates the thoughts which are in sync and resonate with it. But she'll be getting this energy, and then I'll be like, okay, my job, you know, Daddy, here's Daddy coming. I step in, balance out your vibes. All right, there you are. You're all good. You know, it's just like, you got some drool on your chin. Hey, let me come here and wipe that up for you. You know, just like, you got some dark energy there. Don't worry. Here, let me play you some guitar and just hypnotize you for a second, and then you're fine. You know, or just do like raspberries on your stomach, whatever. Just coming, being silly, and, you know. But
These are the greatest times, Jamie.
yeah.
The greatest times. You chose the name very carefully, Grace. What's in a name? Some people say. I think there's a huge amount in a name. How has she grown into that name?
Naturally, gracefully, you know, of course. um
We sometimes call it Baby Grace or Graceful,
I don't know.
Gracie,
Yeah, all kinds of Grania, you know. Yeah,
which
or
is the Gaelic
Gaelic.
translation.
Gaelic. She's teaching me Gaelic, basically, because, you know, I think I probably mentioned this before as well, but like, just like talking to her, and then so trying to think of things, and just, you know, so it's kind of like we're both on a similar level where the language gap is less. But yeah, I think a lot of, like, I'd say the core thing of what I do with Grace, you know, is it's not doing anything. It's doing nothing. It's being, you know, and um, and, you know, like, I just literally would just be there in the moment. So say sometime before I go to work or after I come back from work, just be, oh, hey Grace, what's going on? You know, and I just go lay down with her or sit with her or hold her or whatever, and I'll just do nothing and just, like, you know, be with her, or, you know, say, like, make eye contact and just, like, just be a space, you know, she's there, and there's like a light where she sees, oh, you see me, you know, I go, yeah, I see you, I see you seeing me, you know, here we are, isn't it nice, you know? That's beautiful. And I think it's like music, you know, if when you, if it's always, you know, at cranked up to 11, it's not as good. You want the chorus to be punching above the verse, and you know, that kind of thing. And so I think in life, a great thing is, yeah, the balance between being and doing, and just having things where you're doing nothing. And
and you have spoken to me a lot about that as a young adult and now an older adult.
bit weird
About
for
the
your
importance.
baby to start talking about this stuff, no?
Well, the importance of being present and the importance of just being, and as you get older and life has different complexities, and you have friends, relatives, family who are in difficult positions, and you say, well, what do I do? What can I practically do to help them? And what the experts would say was, well, you don't do anything, you just turn up and you just be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a pretty powerful thing. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people go, oh, I'll just buy a box of chocolates or send around some flowers. Well, yeah,
Yeah. I think
rock up and talk about nothing,
when, you know, the whole thing of like,
do nothing.
yeah, the whole thing of like bouncing ideas off people, or, you know, or, but like basically just listening to someone, just being totally empty, especially if you can just be there listening, like where you're not even thinking of, oh, what am I going to say next, you know, or how can I listen to them and, you know, figure out what's the right thing to say. Not even that, but just kind of like you let their thoughts be your thoughts for a little while. You just, you know, be empty for them. And I think it's almost like you're expanding the RAM of their computer or something, you know, like they're sharing their thoughts, but when they see someone just sitting there just listening, and kind of naturally they're going to be reacting to what you're saying, I think it kind of allows people to think in a different way. And so to think things through, like when someone's just sharing space with them, even if they don't learn anything, just by talking things through, it's very healing. And often, you know, people will just kind of stumble upon realizations or, you know, solutions, even without anyone giving them advice. And, you know, you've been very good at that with, and mum, and, you know, many people during this process, whenever it's been hard, just kind of keeping contact and, you know, being very persistent and just being there, you know. So I really appreciate that. And especially because, you know, we don't have like close family all around. We've got like extended family in Ireland. So that's been you know, very, I guess, extra valuable, that, you know, the desire to intentionally do that, you know. But
And it's extra hard being a grandparent, let me tell you. And, you know, we all feel this here in Australia, being so distant, because you want to shower love on all of you in person. It's a bit difficult from 13,000 kilometers away, however long it is, more. So
love showers pretty far, but it's a long way, you know.
yeah, it's a long. It sure is a hell of a long way. And the other thing is, when you know, we're reaching out and chatting to you, we're very conscious of the fact that everybody in the house is dog tired. You're sleep deprived.
Well, not always, but yes, like, you know, I'm sure, yeah, sometimes I'll be like full of energy and just, you know, chatting. And then other times you get me, I'm like, hey dad, what's up? like you know, smoke
He's
through
been on the wacky backy again. Yeah.
joints or something. Just but I was like, no, just a baby, just up all night.
How do you manage it? What do you do? How do you take care of yourself given that?
Try to get as much sleep as possible. And cut out unnecessary stuff. Like I don't watch TV. I use very little social media. Like I use it to keep informed, because I don't really have much faith in traditional media channels, the legacy media. So I will use social media for that. But like and you know, sometimes I use it too much, you know, but in general, I'm pretty mindful, just be like, time's precious, and so keep it for like And just lots of paying as much attention to health as possible, eating, like we're always eating organic food, doing all kinds of little things. And just a big thing is we have this ceremony thing every which we started doing at some point where the pressure was really intense, something going on. And so me and Johanna started doing in the evenings, we'll have like we light a candle and we make a cup of tea each, and we go sit down on the ground. We do a round of the Wim Hof method breathing, where you're like basically getting yourself into an altered brain chemistry through you're making your body more alkaline, so there's less inflammation, but it gets you into a different, more clear thinking state of mind. It's all scientific study, but we do that, and then we also do that to close the session. And in the middle, we just say, all right, we just share whatever's on our minds, or in half the time we just end up joking around or whatever. But I think just kind of talking through, if there's physical or emotional or like mental problems of some kind or whatever, just talking about them together is like probably the most important thing. Basically, it's like awareness and communication, and then everything else, you can't solve a problem until you're aware of the problem, and so that kind of is I think probably the foundation, I think.
And it's a good principle and set of principles to abide by, because the love you've got for Grace, for Johanna, this is unconditional love, and fundamental to that is great communication, the ability to communicate well and communicate with great honesty, and without fear of favor. And having a device or a mechanism like that whereby you can speak your mind in a very safe environment, I think is a fantastic thing, and great principles to bestow upon Grace, because these are great principles to carry around with you, in life, to find a way to be able to share your troubles and tell people what you think, but also to, on the upside, to speak honestly and candidly and tell them the good things as well. And
I think
problem shared is a problem solved, but also I think there's a great tendency to, or shall I say, a growing tendency, by my observation, for people to categorize and describe things and people and events and feelings and processes in a short, pithy expression, when something deeper and broader is really appropriate and a lot more productive. So it sounds great. I'm curious about the breathing method, Jamie. I know a little about it. Can you give me a bit more?
Sure, we could do it if you want.
Well, that's gonna test me. Okay, let's give it a crack.
Very long, and this is the whole idea. It's all about just like, like there's a lot of benefit in words and understanding, like health and mindfulness and stuff. But I think for a lot of people, they're like, yeah, but it's just word soup, And so this is like what I really like, but it's got its time and place for that. It's really useful in many ways. But the Wim Hof method's great for just like, okay, cut the bullshit, just experience it, And so basically you breathe, we'll do 30 breaths, right? And so you just breathe in like 100%. Just, you could do it through your mouth if you want. I usually do it through my nose, because if you can get enough airflow, that's better for you. We should all be breathing through our noses, actually. But yeah, whatever works to get the air in, basically. As Wim Hof says, any hole's the goal, right? So, so breathing in 100%, and so let your belly expand, then your chest expand, and then just let go. And so you're kind of breathing out 70%. You don't need to let it all out. The main thing is just fully in, letting go, fully in, letting go. All right. So we'll do 30 of these, and then we'll breathe out, and you just leave it out, and we'll see how long we can go. Right. And
Okay.
the longer you go, it's actually, good for various things we don't need to get into, but it's also just good fun, And then you breathe in fully and you hold it for like 15 seconds at the end. All right. So 30 deep breaths, let it out, hold your breath, and then breathe in for like 15 seconds and just hold it. That's it. All right. You in the audience.
Sorry, Jack, let's go over that last bit again. You breathe in fully.
So yeah,
Hold it for how long?
15 seconds or so.
Okay.
I don't
I'll
know what
take your lead.
the instructions, and it works. So, and for those playing at
This
home,
is going to make for riveting podcast content.
anyone who's
Shh. Can you hear that? Can you hear it?
if you're listening on like the bus or something, or if you're watching, yeah, why don't you do this along with us? And then it's going to take like 1-2 minutes maybe, and it's really good. You can use this. It's a very, very useful to learn this in school, I think. So join us. All right, let's get into it, Dad. Here we go. Fully in, letting go. Fully in, letting go. Keep it up. If you start feeling changes in your body, that's fine. It's totally safe, no problem. You might feel warm or cold or tingles, doesn't matter. Just keep going. Fully in, letting go. Let's do 7 more. One more. And breathe out and hold. Just be. What do you reckon?
Well done. Yeah, it's different. I was a little lightheaded for
What's
a
that?
bit, a little lightheaded, but
Yep.
it's quite a meditation as well, because it's a bit like playing guitar or chess or squash. You've got to concentrate on it deeply, so
Yeah.
clears out the mind.
And
You
it's
can't
interesting
really think of anything else.
how the mind clears out like really fully once you start breathing out. It's kind of like a bit of like a shock. At least for me, it was first time I did it. Like, what? It's almost like the volume's been, the music's been turned off at a party. What's going on? But then like how the mind starts to come back, you stop it like, it's kind of interesting. It's like turning.
Who
So
is this crazy bloke who came up with this?
I think it's based upon some yoga breathing and stuff that he had studied, but he's maybe put things together in a simplified, accessible version. His name's Wim Hof, W-I-M, first name, second name, last name is Hof, H-O-F, the Iceman. So he's broken like 24 world records, and they've added chapters into medical textbooks to say, okay, actually the body is able to do things we didn't think it was.
What kind of world records, Jamie?
He has climbed Mount Everest in only shorts and shoes, no oxygen tanks, no shirt, no trousers. Just he has been in ice for, I think it was an hour and 57 minutes in an ice container thing up to his neck, and he kept his core body temperature stable. His organs were stable, and he through the breathing method, because this breathing method allows thermogenesis. Your cells are able to produce heat. And so in extreme cold, like in Canada, when I lived there, I would use this to be able to walk around with my jacket open. And so I would be, because part of the method is also cold exposure, which is very good for your body. So, I know it works for sure. Like I would be able to go longer if I could breathe. And other things, like running a marathon in just shorts and shoes in the polar circle, and also the same thing in the Sahara, no water. A bunch of one other thing was like they gave him E. coli, and they gave it to a bunch of like volunteers, and they all got sick, like you'd expect. And they gave it to him, and he did the breathing thing to modify his brain chemistry to interfere with the cortisol or something, so that he didn't have the immune response, and he was fine. Nothing happened to him. Everyone else got violently sick. He was fine. And they were like, okay, you're some sort of freak. I don't know how you do that. And he's like, no, this is, anyone can do it. Just give me random volunteers and I'll train them. And they did, all right, yeah, cool. So these scientists doing it, they did that. And 2 weeks later, these volunteers did it, and they too were able to do this. And didn't get sick. So all this weird, wacky stuff like that. Yeah. So, but anyway, so, it's good stuff. And it's a good way to like turn down, especially if we're like, annoyed at each other, me and Johanna or something, or like there's been a lot of stress, or Grace has been really cranky or something, and we're exhausted. You sit down and do that, and it just takes the edge off things, so you can have a bit of a more thoughtful conversation, but yeah. So what do you think you and Synthesizer are going to get into this?
I think it's an interesting thing, and I think at certain points in your life, there's bandwidth opens up where you start to think about well-being and health, and as you get older, you get health scares, and it's kind of imposed upon you, or close friends or family get ill, and that's can be terribly sobering. And so devices, mechanisms like the one you've just described and led me through, the mind becomes a lot more open to them. You seek them out, and people find, if they allow themselves to go deep inside and think, well, what actually works for me, as opposed to what's trendy and cool, or what are my mates doing. If you can find that suite of things to do, how to live your life, get that equilibrium, because and have a happy day, because today is the only one that really exists. Tomorrow hasn't happened. Yesterday's gone.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that living, being present and living in the moment. And at various points in your life, that kind of opens up. The COVID lockdown was a good example of that, where people had this, and there were not many upsides to the lockdown, and what happened to people, how they were, imprisoned in their own homes. But among the silver linings is the fact people had time to reflect and think, and had to find ways to hopefully promote well-being in splendid isolation on their own at home, sometimes within 4 close walls. And people, found ways to do that and to reflect. So that's enforced reflection. But I think at various points it happens. And I know you're a very thoughtful person. You studied philosophy at university. You are deeply sentient and conscious of the world and the universe in which you live and operate. But for many people, life gets in the way of any of that. And
Mm.
so it's quite a privilege to have any bandwidth, as you were discovering over the past 6 months, because there hasn't been a lot of time. You know, I bet you yoga and meditation have both taken a bit of a hit,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. Um,
You had
yeah.
this daily routine of
Well,
do
I
some meditation, do some
already.
stretching.
Well, the thing is, like with the pregnancy, like that was full on. Also, just preparing everything and getting educated on like what's the best path and stuff. And but yeah, that had kind of you're right. They're like, yeah, it's like uh the you mentioned like say the COVID stuff and how that was kind of a thing where for some people did all a lot of people it just destroyed and destroyed economies and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, there was that silver lining of like allowing people to kind of time to just kind of stop and reflect. And also because the pressure was cranked up, I think a lot of people were forced to reach for like, okay, I used to kind of scoff and scorn at like roll my eyes at some of these things, but okay, maybe I don't need to wear beads and flamboyant clothes in order to enjoy the human birthright of like mindfulness and being able to and just demystify it. And I think a lot of people got into it, and there's a cultural shift around the planet, I think, where there's a bunch of people who are pushed in off the edge of a cliff, but there's a lot of people who were like, well, I don't want to go off a cliff, so I'm going to have to do these things. And I think in life that happens at certain stages, like say me being a father now, like I have had no choice but to kind of get much more grounded, and also with work being much more productive and just like organized, and so these are blessings, that might be disguised as curses where you're like, I'm so busy, I have no time. But or these globalist technocrats trying to take away our rights. I mean, there's a deadly virus on the loose, you know but there's always a silver lining. And yeah, everyone can find what works for them. But like yeah, I think mindfulness, and for me a lot of it is just like it doesn't have to be don't have to make a big deal out of it. It's just whatever works. And basically mindfulness is just anything that is bringing you into the moment, which is life, and allowing you to kind of have a bit of space around your thoughts, so that you're not getting lost in analysis of life, and you're able to kind of settle in and just look around a bit, as Ferris Bueller said.
Life moves pretty fast. Don't blink or you might miss it. Or
If your life moves pretty fast, if you don't stop and look around once in a while, you might miss it. I think it's
yeah.
something.
Oh, that's more faithfully recalled. What a great movie. I love Ferris Bueller.
Amazing. Like movies where you can just keep watching it and like different parts reveal themselves to you, different moments just get increasingly funny. I need
Yeah,
to watch.
it was like the start of the whole wave of post-truth um,
Right.
propaganda. Say Bueller. Ferris, I heard from the sister of a guy that I once went out with, his cousin,
Yeah.
that he's really, really sick. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can we
yeah.
give him some? It's a very life affirming movie, that, because there's a naughty streak in everybody,
Mm.
and uh, and it's a kind of a naughty streak with no victims, except maybe for Ed Rooney,
Mm.
Mr. Rooney.
He probably went through the most spiritual growth of anyone in that film. And that's the
After his dog bites had healed.
yeah, you know but suffering is the Eckhart Tolle says, you can seek out spiritual teachers, who will help you with your, self-awareness and just growth as a person. But every single person shares one particular spiritual teacher, which is suffering. And in a nutshell, when you are out of balance in one or another aspect of your life, when you're not doing something as well as you could be, or not embodying something in a balanced way, it will cause problems. And those problems will make you suffer. And eventually it'll hurt too much. And you have to start going, what is causing this pain? And it's going to lead you back to find what caused it, and then that's how suffering is your teacher. It teaches you about balance. And if you didn't have the suffering, you wouldn't be able to diagnose or trace the roots of the imbalances, you know. That's the problem with people just taking too much, you know. You don't notice what's wrong with your life. You're just pressing the happiness button all day, you know.
You can't be a good doctor without knowing the disease.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of those kind of settings for Grace as she's growing up, what kind of, and you talked earlier about playing her some music, aside from you playing guitar to her, what kind of recorded music are you imposing upon her tender ears?
Lots of Bob Dylan, Beatles, and Bach. I play a lot of like you know, J.S. Bach. Like I don't know a lot of that stuff, but just stuff on YouTube that, you know, I was never educated in that kind of thing. But yeah, and Johanna, sometimes we put on like Smetana and like these, you know, like Czech composers and stuff. So like classical music. Then there's like, you know, little kiddie songs on these little gadgets we have around. You know, I tolerate a bit of that, but not too much. I'm like, all right, let's not like, you know, sell ourselves short here. Come on, we can put on some, you know, higher quality stuff. And then but yeah, what else? I don't know. Johanna's probably playing Simple Plan while I'm not here, you know.
With Dylan, don't you think Blood on the Tracks is, she's a bit young for that, or a bit innocent?
In a literal sense, probably, but in a figurative sense, I think no harm in a bit of Blood on the Tracks, you know.
That is the best Dylan album, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the best question about a Dylan album, that's for sure. No, I don't know what's the best. I mean, tricky. I mean, yeah, Blonde on Blonde, Blood on the Tracks. Some of the early ones. Desire, yeah. But like say, would it be is it another side? The Times They Are Changing, or is it another side of Bob Dylan? Some of them are like just got incredible songs, like, you know, Boots of Spanish Leather, and, you know, all these kind of things. Or like, you know, some people say, was it like, I mean, you can just name all the Dylan albums, but the one, what's it, Bringing It All Back Home, I think, where it's got Desperate Road, it's got like electric and acoustic. But even I've been getting into, you know, what's an amazing album, Dad, is Shot of Love. Have you ever listened to, it's Dylan's, you had these 3 Christian albums, right, in like the 80s. And I think Slow Train Coming, something, you know, or is Infidels? I'm not sure. And then a third one, I'm not sure.
Oh, Mercy?
Yeah, maybe Oh Mercy. Yeah, I'm not sure. But the third one was Shot of Love. And so it seemed like he was kind of transitioning out of like, oh, okay, growing through that phase. But still, like, I think, you know, I think there's a lot of good to be said for Christianity and religion in general, despite, you know, the vast amount of like bad which has been, you know, organized religion has brought as well. But there's these songs on there where, like, you know, some of them he's talking about Jesus or something, but they're incredible songs. Like there's this one I'd highly recommend. Like, it's one of the greatest Dylan songs ever is In the Summertime. And so that's really good. But and I think he's kind of talking about when he was in his prime, and he's just this next level, like, you know, say what you want about Dylan, but like he was in the zone, you know. But and then, you know, the summertime of that peak or whatever. But another really good one is called Property of Jesus. And I know this isn't the point of the podcast, but it's just incredible. It's like, because he's the property of Jesus, resent him to the bone. But if you got something better, you got a heart of stone. It's just amazing. But
I'm going to check out, Jamie, the song that I think is his most,
yeah,
one of his most incredible is Ring Them Bells from Oh Mercy.
Yeah, was that? Yeah, it's a great song.
I absolutely love that song. And I think it's one of his best. Mind you, if you got to see Dylan live now, he could play that song and you wouldn't know that he played it.
And I love Mr. Bells. Oh, okay, fair. No, but
I just love the fact that he's still touring. Anyway, it's kind of way off topic, Jamie. Hey, I've just noticed that we're kind of at a point where we can both say that it's 6 months from when Grace was born and you became a dad and fatherhood
Well,
descended upon
midnight.
for real. Are we ever so close,
Yes,
James?
it is. It is on the dot. It's a mid. Well done. So,
So
wow.
it's officially Grace's 6 month birthday. She's 6 months old. You've done a super job, Jamie, you and Johanna, and she's the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful child.
Yeah, it's
And we love her. Can't wait to see her soon.
yeah, it's going to be wonderful. One thing I do want to ask you about though, before then we'll wrap it up, I guess, is just one thing I think which is very important, which I think I was too sleep deprived in the first conversation to mention when we're talking about fatherhood. But I think like, you know, it's made me more independent and self-sufficient and industrious, you know, which is a virtue which I'm really enjoying, you know, just like someone's got to produce the good that everyone can enjoy, you know, and I want to be one of those people, you know, and come in many forms: poetry, money, like you know, food, whatever, solving people's problems, you know, communication, your kind of thing, you know, just facilitating, being a like a kind of like a neurotransmitter in the business community's brain, just kind of connecting things, you know. Um, but so you know, there's these many benefits, and you know, like there's so much love with taking care of this little child and stuff, and I think you know a lot of caring, you know, and being invested so important, and just you know paying attention and giving your time, being with them, and just not being in a rush, you know, and not being bored by like, oh, they can't talk to me, but just being, oh, like here they are, they can see me, and they can let me introduce me to another side of myself, a simpler, the inner child almost, you know. But the other side, which I want to ask about, is I think perhaps the greatest gift a father can give is not those things, because that's what the mother is probably better at giving, all in general, you know, it's just that unconditional love. And it seems like the mother accepts and says, you're good enough. I love you as you are. And the father, as an archetype and as the person, often says, you can be better. And so encouraging you to grow, but not just encouraging you to grow, but also it's like encouragement and also discipline, being like, don't do that, you know, or do this, go here, do that, you know, or don't do that, you know, and kind of controlling. The mother's kind of like, yeah, we'll do what you want. It's just supporting, whereas the father's kind of like directing. And so say what I think, something I got from Jordan Peterson, which briefly I'll lay out and I'll get your thoughts on just in general, this, you know, what is the right balance of, you know, that, you know, as a father, to interfere in just the growth of the child and, you know, interfere or intervene, you know, but or influence or whatever. But he said, you know, like there's this idea of like, you know, kind of the, you know, modern, you know, woke parenting or whatever of like, oh, the child should be completely free. Your job as a parent, you're like a friend. Your job is just to let them do whatever they want, you know? And if you try to control them or inhibit their freedom in any way, you're going to traumatize them and make them unhappy, unhealthy people. So just let them be totally free, and that's all good. And I think, no, that's not, I doubt that the cave people were doing that. And so the evolutionary milieu is like, no, the parent sets parameters. And what Jordan Peterson would say, and I think makes a lot of sense, is you, as a parent, you draw a circle of freedom and say, these are the limits, you can't go outside of them. And I already do that with Grace in some small ways, but I'm sure it'll be more salient as time goes on. But saying, no, you can't go outside this boundary. And I could be wrong. I'm not perfect, but someone has to set a boundary. And I'm doing my best, and this is the boundary. We can negotiate, but this is the boundary until I change my mind. And within that circle, you're completely free. Do whatever you want, but this is the boundary. And then you allow them to be balanced people, and basically they will grow up with good habits that allows them to fit in society, rather than being 18 and they're getting dumped, they're getting, you know, fired from jobs, and it's really hard to change your habits at that age. So it seems like there's this gift the father can give of tough love, you know, of like discipline, encouragement, like, yeah, you can be more. I'm not saying you're not good enough. You are good enough, but you can be more. And also discipline, pruning off the unwise growth. So what do you think about that, especially the discipline side? Like, what's the way to go?
I think being a parent falls into 3 age categories up until mid-teens, I'd say. Then mid-teens through to adulthood, and from that point on is the third period. For sure, kids need structure. They need certainty, because I think they become chaotic and unsure and uncertain and insecure if they don't have structure and certainty around them. I think it's important for learning good habits and being able to operate productively and happily within the world in which we operate. Everyone can have their views about society and its shape and its form, but this is the one we live in. So it's best, and it's going to be best for you if you can somehow fit in. You don't have to comply with everything, but you've got to have the minimum amount of social decorum and skills. And so you've got to take, I think structure and discipline are really important to get those skills. There's an inflection point then, which is teenage years, mid-teen teenage years onwards, where you have to pull back and allow the inner person to come forward and emerge with a child for reasons of self-sufficiency and sustainability. Because if you don't do that, they're going to find themselves in later life without the skills, without the basics, and then find that they've got a pretty fragile base on which to operate without being supported and encouraged and interfered with. And what did you say? Intervene. So I think that's a delicate balance. So for sure, strong structure early. Then you've got to respect people's rights to go and do what they want at a point. But you also have to encourage that self-sufficiency. And part of that is having you given them the basic settings. You've got to then kind of set them free and make them run on their own steam. If you don't, they'll fail, and so you got to do that. So it's a complex answer, but that's a complex question. That's my view. Anyway, you turn out just fine. And I'm interested in
I think
what you said about fatherhood has changed you around, being more feeling you're more industrious and productive, and all the obligations that go with it. You've done a fine job, Jamie. Very proud of you.
Thank you, and likewise. And so, yeah, I guess it's maybe it's like it's a sign of like you've grown up when you start feeling proud of your parents, because like it's almost
you
like
are getting old.
I am getting older, I know. But by the way, I just noticed like I'd had you on the main screen, not like the split screen, should probably be more aesthetically pleasing. But hey, well, maybe it was the honoring the elder who has given me the platform to have this platform, That's what I'll say in my defense. Hey, John McGlue platformed me, my defense here.
That's defamatory of both of us. Yeah.
Well, another defamation case, hey, Dad.
It's good. It's good, Jamie.
But I would say I agree with you. Like, think there's a point of that structure is essential, but then there's a point of stepping back, and not just to encourage them to grow and kind of become self-sufficient, but then it seems like there's other lessons. By opening the circle, you allow the young person to start exploring more, and then
you've got to respect their right and ability to run their own race.
But also they will they're going to enter into territory which becomes more challenging for them, where they're more of a child again in that territory, and that's where they need the parent again. So ironically, the parent going, all right, I'm stepping back, the child steps forward and goes, oh, actually, here we are again, I need your help. And then that goes on for a while and you step back again, I guess. So
and that's where you're present and you listen and so forth. But you got to find the balance between listening and doing it for them, because that's suboptimal. Anyway,
It's a dance. You're
good
standing.
note on which to end.
Sorry?
It's a good note on which to wrap up the discussion. It's the end. It's past midnight where you are, and
Yeah.
the day is well and truly underway where I am.
Yeah. So it should be about an hour. So yeah. So we'll dedicate this podcast to your shining example. And yeah. And one final thing I would just say is, I think much like this podcast, I didn't have, the thing right, the camera or whatever. Doesn't matter. Like there's some things where, we talked about the problems where, I had been hurt in certain ways by, you raising me when I was, younger. But then part of growing up is you realize, oh yeah, but like the vast majority is like, I'm so good, I'm so lucky. And so I realized with grace, there will be ways, I'm sure, where I falter, and that's okay. I'm just going to do my best. And I think with all things, that's kind of my guiding light with this. I'm just going to do my best. And that requires me to be comfortable with, hey, play the game, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, That'll be fun.
Jamie, you're doing great.
Thanks, Dad. And
You and Johanna are both doing great.
and we're both very excited to come to the beautiful sandy beaches of Leighton. And
Can't wait. All right, we'll see you soon.
see you soon. Enjoy.
Slán agus Bennett.
Thank you, everyone. Garamila Mahagwir. Slán agus Bennett. Enjoy.